Aidan.
Thank you very much. Excited to sitting down to address you with our stand-up most of the time, and it means I can get a good look at the addressing. Today, in my 10 minutes, I'd like to do an overview of the work that I do. I normally pick on a topic and focus on that, but we've had lots of new members we turned around in the last year or two, so I think it would be useful to take this opportunity to give you an overall picture of the sort of referrals I'm looking for. That's what 10 minutes for, to make you more aware and give you more referrals. Firstly, the TM Law set up with Terry. We try as a firm of solicitors to advise businesses and cater for their overall needs. Terry, of course, deals with the litigation. You hear from him on that, as you did today. But my work tends to be contract-based. We complement one another in the work we do. As a small firm, we're trying to provide a full service for businesses. The first area to cover, obviously, is employment law. Both Terry and I focus on employment law, and my focus is on the contractual side. Now, on the contractual side, there's various types of contracts that I can prepare and do for clients. There's directors and senior employees. Not only do we deal with their function, but deal with restrictions when they leave, and bonuses based on the company's performance. That sort of thing produces a fairly substantial contract. I have employee contracts for workforces of all sizes, and includes not only the basic written obligations that we have to produce a written contract for employees, but also various regulations, including disciplinary codes. I also, and increasingly, deal with subcontractor consultant contracts. Over the years, there's been an increased tendency to have a workforce that doesn't have the rights and obligations that employees have. Care must be taken to ensure that those subcontractors genuinely are so, but nonetheless, it's an important part of my contract work, and particularly so with the Employment Rights Act going through at the moment. For example, the severe restriction of 0 hours contracts, which, contrary to political belief, I think were a good thing in many ways. They are abused, but they give a flexibility that really should be there, and it's not going to be. People are going to have to go for self-employment contractors and what very little working for. The thing that Terry and I both do is HR issues. We can provide advice to businesses on an ongoing basis as to how to deal with all sorts of issues, contractual based, in particular disciplinary matters. We can provide guidance through that disciplinary process. And often small businesses don't have the sort of hierarchy that can make an appeal where you go through the process and who you get to deal with the appeal. So we can actually conduct those on behalf of companies as well. So that's the employment area that I deal with. Secondly, business contracts. You're in business, you need to make sure you're trading properly and trading effectively. Most businesses now present themselves, or an awful lot present themselves as limited companies, even though it might only be one person who is trading. Where there's more than one proprietor in the business, it's important to get the divisions of responsibility sorted out. Make clear from the outset who does what. Mundane matters like holidays and work time and that sort of thing. But where one party is an investor and the other is active in the business, that can be really important. Get it right at the beginning, avoid problems later on. When there are an equal number of shareholders, it's important to have deadlock provisions in your agreement. And also, negative though it might be, when you're setting up in business with someone else, you get your agreement done and you make sure it has an adequate exit strategy. Because you shouldn't, it's not negative, it's making sure that when somebody retires, somebody dies, or just wants to leave the business, you've already thought out what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, share options and that sort of thing. Fine, that's looking in at your business and how you move it forward. Looking outwards, I deal with terms and conditions. Terms and conditions for your suppliers and your customers. Part of the focus of the business should be to know their customers and make sure you have trading arrangements that are effective and work. And where you're dealing with an individual whose trading is happening, you really ought to have a director's guarantee in place. Because all they're doing is transferring the business into a limited company and potentially absolving themselves of any responsibility, ultimately, for bad trading and bad debts. So, director's guarantees are cheap and simple to do. You can use it as a template for everybody you deal with. The other thing that businesses often have, less so now, but generally, is business premises. Terry and I always make it clear that as a firm we don't do residential conveyancing. That sort of factory work, it involves a lot of staff, and we're not built like that, so we don't do it. Just like we don't things that we don't do when we say so. We don't take on anything that we don't do on a regular basis. So commercial conveyancing tends to be acquisition of premises or the sale of premises. It will normally be leases, but it could be the purchase of freehold. So we deal with that. If you look at a commercial lease, typical size is 65 pages. It's essential that you as a business owner should understand what you can and cannot do, as all the restrictions there might be in relation to your occupation. If you're a business that owns property and deals with property, that will be a great referral for you because it produces continuity of work. There's always something to do when there are properties being transacted. Finally, that's all the company work. We do deal at the end with company sales and purchases. And actually, a company sale, whether it's an asset sale or a share sale, that's the best type of referral you can get me. Typically, we're up against big firms. I do it in conjunction with another solicitor who happens to be my next door neighbour, but we provide a team of two, and that is important when dealing with bigger firms and getting bounced around as you can do. So, a brief sketch of the areas that I operate in when acting for business clients. I do undertake, however, private work. That private work I just mentioned in my 60 seconds, dealing with wills and powers of attorney. The focus of my advice is to give businesses, make them fit to meet the problems that they're going to arise when they trade. Similarly with wills and powers of attorney, make sure that if you're losing mental capacity during your life, there's someone available to help you deal with it, and when they die, ensuring their assets reach the beneficiaries that they wish to benefit. So basically, overall, in summary, I see my function is to help both businesses and individuals get their shit together. I will take it.
I was just going to say exactly that. Thank you, Aidan. Really, really useful. Any questions in mind? Oh.
Does UK employment legislation cover employees who are resident persons?
It depends whether they've got a contract of employment in this country.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, they will be on fire. Scott.
Probably the best opportunity for me to refer to you is when my clients, or when I ask my clients, give me your privacy policy, give me your terms and conditions of business for the website. Is that something you could actively review, update, or produce from scratch?
Yeah, yes, certainly. I mean, like you, one of the things I enjoy is finding out about a business. Every time you learn about a business and you apply what you do to that, and that's interesting. It gives you the contact, but yes, certainly for one problem. Josh.
Yeah, do you review succession contract? So let's say someone's got a business, they're looking at the future and whether they may pass that company on to someone, but they're not at the stage of selling the company as of yet. They're just not that happy.
That sounds like something that would initially form a discussion that I have, and a lot of people are scared to talk to this and say, "Oh, the clock's ticking." But I always talk to any client about what their overall situation is before I'm giving them any advice, and they can assess whether I can assist them. But certainly, contracts, shareholder agreements often deal with succession issues, and that would be typical sort of thing to look at. Yeah.
Somebody who works for us, it was the daughter-in-law of a very elderly lady. And the elderly lady's actual daughter has power of attorney. She lives at home still, the elderly lady, but the daughter helps write with bills and checks and so on, and has helped herself to over 60,000 of the mother's account. So although she has legal power of attorney, presumably it doesn't cover helping herself to a whole bunch.
No, there's nothing in the power of attorney that indicates that you can use the money for your own purposes. Indeed, the whole concept of it is that you're in a position of trust when you receive this. If there is a problem, ultimately it's to report to the Office of the Public Guardian, because the Public Guardian has all power of attorney registered with them, and if there's been any malpractice, then it will be doing that or issuing inquiries.
Okay.
Last one, I think, from
Well,
which area of all that you do you enjoy doing the most?
actually,
Is it the daughter's enjoyment or coming to
no, actually, no, sadly, it does. I do enjoy a new job, a new challenge. I think probably employment law I take to more readily because of the nature of how you deal with employment agreements. Leases, based on the old common law, have developed over the years, and leases, like wills, you interpret the wording, full stop. And if the wording's not right, you interpret the wording, you don't look behind the situation. Employment law is what we call purposive, in that you're entitled to look at what it's aiming to do when you deal with the interpretation. So it's a bit looser, less stringent, as from a drafting point of view, and it also makes you have a more overall look at things. So yeah, I do enjoy what I do. Surprisingly. Yeah.
And thank you very much, really, really.